Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christopher Ray, and I will be presenting the highlights of the research that I accomplished while creating the software documentation you'll soon be reading over. Most of the presentation will be getting to know the sources I used for creating the documentation and how they add value to the end product. Specifically, we'll talk about Stack Overflow, GitHub, and my personal work experience. Moving to Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is a free community driven site that has the shared knowledge of over 30 million users in 157 countries. Stack Overflow allows individuals from all around the world to share their problems and eventually their solutions if there exists a solution to the problem they're proposing. That is, this is one of the most amazing resources a young programmer can use, as it holds the combined work experience of 272,000 years between 10,000 full-time developers and countless subject matter experts. Also, the site can be used for anything complex or complicated or highly technical that requires guides. They offer solutions ranging from grammar, etiquette, to the underlying numerical and logical principles of counting from 0 to 1 to movie lore and video game lore and other things like that. It's a really great site if you're a kind of technical person and you kind of want to list all the things out in a way that there is of something. Very technical. I like it a lot, and I'd suggest at least giving it a try. GitHub is another community-driven site. However, this works more like a collaboration tool for modifying code or files in groups from remote locations. That being said, I can take any file, put it into a plain text format, and load it onto Git, and then GitHub will keep track of all of the modifications to the file, and if I am collaborating with other people, it will tell me who makes what modifications to the file and when they did it. Um, so I used it as a reference for how I should present the documentation to other programmers. A lot of times, programmers will put their documentation onto GitHub so they can have everybody either read over it and if there's a mistake, quickly fix it and stuff like that. So it's a great reference for seeing how programmers expect information to be presented to them. So it adds for a very flowing, I guess, presentation. It doesn't always give the most political correct example, but for sure programmers will love what you're doing if you follow the examples on Git. It also is really cool because I've put papers and projects and really anything that I can put in plain text format onto GitHub, and then if I need help or something, I'll make it easy for my friends to modify the file. So it's really cool, and I think everybody should use it. It takes, there is a learning curve, but after you get over that, it's so useful. Like, you'll use it all the time, I think. Moving on to my work experience. Um, Most of the work I've done at various companies and on various projects and programs requires a lot of documentation. We use documentation as a guide to help people understand and hopefully modify the project or program to fulfill the desired results that they're looking for. I've spent the majority of my life working either on or with computers, and I can tell you from 10 years of around 10 years of experience that the computing world definitively and definitely runs on documentation. It allows us to come together as a unit or as a whole to create something very good. A lot of the work I did in the early years of computing required me either reading a book about the subject or going on to the internet, and it really takes a go-getter to, I guess, kind of do that, especially with programming, because you might find a resource that might be about what you want it to be about, but it's not that reliable, or you'll find a very reliable source, but it's completely not about what you need it to be about. So you really have to persevere in that sense. So you can rest easy knowing that a constant user and creator of documentation is at your disposal. In closing, we've seen how using community-driven sites like GitHub and Stack Overflow enhance the value and clearness of the documentation. We've also talked about how my personal experience has improved the overall quality of the documentation, from finding useful internet sources to just a plain old go get it done attitude. I'd like to close with a quote from Jack Kerouac. I'm sorry, his name's kind of hard to pronounce, but I think it really encompasses the purpose and goal of documentation. One day I will find the right words, and they will be simple.